The black Escalade cut through the Los Angeles traffic, a bubble of conditioned air and tense silence. Inside, Leo's manager, Jenna, was outlining the next few days. It was a relentless schedule of variety shows, screen tests, and commercial shoots. But she summarized it into two inescapable points. He would be working nonstop, and he would be doing it all with Julian Croft. Jenna wondered aloud about the online chatter. The consensus was that their on-screen chemistry was a complete fabrication. She didn't get it. Their show, Celestial, was a runaway hit. Maintaining the illusion for a while longer would only benefit Leo. Julian's fame and reputation were in a league of their own. Other actors would kill for this kind of exposure. She asked if they had truly fought on set. Conflict, Leo thought, wasn't the right word. It was simpler and far more complicated. They had been involved. It had ended badly. Julian had been playing a game, and Leo, like a fool, had believed it was real. He let out a quiet sigh and closed his eyes, offering no further explanation. Before Celestial aired, Leo was a nobody, bouncing between web series to stay afloat. He had been on the verge of being pushed by his former agent into a series of cheap, exploitative mobile dramas. But the show had made him a star, an overnight sensation. Projects that had once rejected him were now flooding his inbox. His old boss, Mr. Davies, who once told him to sleep his way to the top or get out, now smiled so hard his eyes crinkled. Lately, the buzz wasn't just about the show or the Leo-Julian pairing the fans adored. It was his solo interviews. A host, her eyes gleaming with either genuine fandom or a thirst for drama, had asked what he thought of Julian Croft. Leo's face had instinctively turned to ice. He offered a curt, professional compliment. The host pressed on, asking if they kept in touch, knowing Julian had been working overseas for the past 2 years. Leo's flat no cut the interview short. The internet erupted. His dedicated fans celebrated, taking it as proof that the on-screen romance was fake. The couple's shippers were devastated. Jenna had nearly stormed his apartment, accusing him of sabotaging his own career. But today, the online arguments ceased, silenced by the anticipation of the first official Celestial cast press event. Both he and Julian would be there. In the makeup room, the door swung open. Julian entered, dressed in all black. He pulled off his baseball cap and mask, revealing the sharp, cool lines of his face. He looked well, with none of the lingering frailty of someone who had recently undergone major surgery. They were sharing a dressing room. Their eyes met briefly in the mirror's reflection. Leo said nothing, but Julian's gaze locked onto him. Julian's manager, Marcus, a round, perpetually smiling man who knew their history, greeted Leo without a trace of awkwardness. He congratulated Leo on his recent success. Leo returned a polite, hollow smile. Julian sat in the chair next to him, his taller frame eclipsing the sunlight streaming through the window. The familiar, woody scent of his cologne filled the air, making Leo shift uncomfortably in his seat. The room fell silent. Everyone could see Julian staring at Leo, who made no move to acknowledge him. The atmosphere grew thick enough to choke on. The makeup artist, sensing Leo's foul mood, fumbled with his eyeliner, her hand trembling. She smudged a line and her face went pale with apology. Leo just sighed and told her it was fine. Before they went on stage, Leo overheard the crew whispering. They pitted the shippers, lamenting that on-screen chemistry rarely translated. One noted that it seemed less like mutual dislike and more like Leo wanted nothing to do with Julian. The brand sponsor had sent over custom suits, one black, one white, with matching paired accessories. Jenna had explained the symbolism, but Leo hadn't been listening. When Julian emerged from the dressing room and saw Leo, his eyes lit up. He started to speak Leo's name, but Leo cut him off with a cold request to get out of his way. A flicker of hurt crossed Julian's face before he stepped aside. The event began. As the host announced their entrance, a tidal wave of screams crashed over them. This was Julian's first public appearance in the States in 2 years, and the fervor was palpable. The fan color for their pairing was blue, and the audience was a sea of azure, like the sky in Celestial or a vast, lonely ocean. The show told the story of two men who fell in love in college, were torn apart by their families, and then found each other again years later in the cutthroat world of Hollywood. Standing side by side under the brilliant lights was a scene straight from the show, a scene that had once starred in Leo's dreams. Now, it felt like a distant, painful memory. The host's questions started with the plot, but, spurred by the crowd, soon turned to their personal dynamic. She asked point-blank if the rumors of their poor relationship were true. They both managed practiced laughs. Leo was about to launch into a generic we're-like-brothers speech when Julian beat him to it, playfully co-opting a joke from their fans. He said yes, they fought all the time from the headboard to the foot of the bed. He claimed Leo was ferocious. The shippers in the audience lost their minds. The other cast members on stage stifled their laughter. Only Leo, meeting Julian's gaze, a look so tender it seemed to see no one else in the world, felt a surge of pure rage. Logic told him to play along, but the anger was a flash fire. With a smile still fixed on his face, he leaned into his microphone, his words dropping like ice into the sudden silence. "Why are you being so disgusting, Julian?" Julian froze, his hand tightening on his own mic. The practiced charm vanished, replaced by a raw, visible pain that nearly shattered the polished facade he'd spent years building. Leo had finally thrown that word back at him, but there was no triumph in it, only a profound ache. The moment ripped through time, dragging him back to the rap party. He had been so eager for an answer from Julian that night. He'd found him on the balcony, talking to a friend. The friend had asked if he got bored on set, hooking up with a guy just for fun. Julian had laughed, a sound both flippant and derisive. He'd said it was pretty disgusting, sleeping with a man. Leo had waited, hidden, for a full minute, praying he had misheard, but there was nothing more. The sting of that moment, the desperate flight from the party, was as fresh as if it were yesterday. The night before, Julian had been in his bed, whispering his name like a prayer, his love feeling so real in the humid dark. For the rest of the event, the host steered clear of them. When it was over, a dull ache started in Leo's stomach. He was waiting in his dressing room for Jenna when the door opened and locked behind him. He looked up sharply. It was Julian. Before Leo could speak, Julian crossed the room in 3 long strides. Leo tried to stand, but Julian pushed him back onto the sofa, his grip firm. Julian's eyes were cold as he leaned over him. He demanded Leo repeat what he had said on stage. Leo struggled, the pain in his stomach intensifying. He started to say the word again, but Julian's mouth crashed down on his. A kiss that was more of a punishment than a passion. Leo fought, twisting his head away. Julian, breathless, softened his voice but not his grip. He sounded almost pleading. He told Leo he couldn't talk about them like that. He reminded Leo of their last conversation, when Leo had said he was bored. Julian asked what he'd done wrong, promising he would change. He asked if Leo had come to the hospital, if he still had feelings for him. Leo couldn't listen to the act anymore. He spat out the question of who had called it disgusting in the first place. A flicker of confusion crossed Julian's face before dawning horror replaced it, his expression turning ashen. Leo stared at him with venom in his eyes, taunting him, asking if he was back in the country and looking for another fling. He told him he could be bought, but his price had gone up. A knock at the door. It was Jenna, and she wasn't alone. Crew members were outside. Julian's grip slackened. Leo straightened his clothes, viciously wiping his bruised lips, and walked out, pushing past the stunned onlookers. In the car, Jenna was frantic. Leo cut her off. He stated plainly that he was gay, and that Julian found that disgusting. They had been together, and now they were not. The exhaustion was written on his face. It was all in the past. In a few sentences, Jenna pieced together the story. Her tone softened. All Leo wanted to know was when the promotional tour would be over. He had thought he could handle it, but just one encounter had left him feeling like he was about to break. 3 years ago, at 24, Leo's world had shattered. His father, driving drunk, had killed someone. A month later, his mother took her own life. He signed a predatory contract with an agency, an ironclad deal for $50 million over 4 years, just to cover the $2 million in restitution for his father's victim. He'd hated his father for his affairs, for his recklessness, for destroying everything. At the time, he had a small buzz from a recent role and was competing with another actor at his agency, Caleb, for the lead in a major project. But Caleb discovered his family's secret and used it against him. Leo dropped out of the running, spending the next year grinding through a series of soulless, low-budget productions that chipped away at his passion for acting. That's when the audition for Celestial came along. It was a popular novel, but its queer love story was a risk. Not many were willing to gamble on it. The other lead had been cast, but his identity was a secret. When Leo walked into the audition, he saw him, Julian Croft, a megastar whose every project turned to gold. Leo couldn't fathom why he would take on such a project. Julian was even more striking in person, the sunlight catching in his clear eyes. He read lines with Leo. Afterward, while Leo was a bundle of nerves, Julian was the picture of relaxed confidence. It was only when Julian smiled at him while talking to the director that Leo realized his own heart was hammering. He often thought back to that moment, the autumn sun on Julian's hair, his famous eyes sparkling. That might have been when it started. He got the part. In the beginning, he and Julian were just colleagues. Julian was the product of a wealthy, secure upbringing, confident and outgoing. Leo was still shrouded in the gloom of his recent tragedies. But Julian was charismatic, easily befriending everyone on set. After one particularly intense scene, the crew teased them about their chemistry. Julian just raised an eyebrow and agreed they were a good match. He joked that if Leo wasn't feeling it, he must be the only one deep in character. Whenever Leo felt himself developing inappropriate feelings, he would look up Julian's fan forums. After Celestial was announced, Julian's fans had been in an uproar for days, questioning why their idol would risk his career on such a controversial project and with an unknown co-star. The vast distance between their worlds was enough to quell any foolish hope. He assumed Julian was straight, until a scene in a stairwell where Julian's character pinned his against the wall for a kiss. The air was electric. They did 3 takes. On the final one, Julian did something that wasn't in the script. He pulled Leo into a tight embrace, his breath hot on Leo's neck. He whispered for Leo to give him a second to compose himself. It was then that Leo felt the evidence of Julian's arousal against him, and his own face burned. The director, assuming it was improvisation, didn't call cut. When they finally broke apart, Julian murmured, asking why his heart was beating so fast. That same day, Leo got a call from his boss, Mr. Davies. A male investor had taken an interest in him. This was the 3rd such call, and Davies's patience had worn thin. He reminded Leo of the $50 million contract, sneering that he'd never earn it acting. He gave Leo an address and an ultimatum. It was Julian's birthday. The cast and crew celebrated on set, and Julian, grinning, pulled Leo over to help him cut the cake. The warmth of his hand on Leo's felt like a brand. Later, Leo found him alone and gave him a pair of cufflinks, apologizing that he had to miss the cast dinner for an important meeting. Julian took the gift and playfully asked Leo to put them on for him. The request was so intimate it flustered Leo, but Julian just laughed it off, saying he was kidding. Leo went to the dinner. The investor, Mr. Sterling, was a middle-aged family man who projected an image of a respectable philanthropist but was known for his predatory behavior. As Sterling's hand reached for his, Leo found himself staring at the spot on his own hand where Julian's had been just hours before. Midway through dinner, the private room door opened. A special guest had arrived. It was Julian. He was dressed casually, wearing the black cufflinks Leo had given him. Leo felt a hot flush of shame. He excused himself and rushed to the restroom. Julian was waiting outside when he emerged, an unlit cigarette dangling from his lips. His voice was unreadable when he asked if this was Leo's important meeting. Before Leo could answer, Julian pulled him into a nearby fire escape. The emergency light clicked off, plunging them into darkness. As his eyes adjusted, he could just make out Julian's face leaning close. Julian's question came out of the shadows, sharp and direct. Did Leo like men? The question stunned Leo into silence. Julian's voice dropped lower. He asked what Sterling could offer that he couldn't. Then, just as he was about to kiss him, he pulled back. He gave Leo a choice: go back to the investor or leave with him. Leo did neither. He grabbed Julian's sleeve, his heart pounding, and answered the question from before. He said yes. There was a pause. Then Julian took his hand, his voice a low not to regret it. They went back to Julian's hotel. The click of the door locking was a point of no return. The night was a blur of tangled limbs and feverish kisses. Afterward, exhausted and sore, Leo lay in bed, the city lights filtering through the thin curtains. He felt, for a moment, that he had caught something precious. He woke once before dawn to find Julian's arms still around him. When he woke again, Julian was gone. A message from Julian told him to rest. Later, Marcus, Julian's manager, showed up with a container of soup and fresh bread, made by Julian's private chef. At the studio, Leo avoided Julian's eyes, but Julian found him during a break. Another actor joked about Julian ditching his own party. Julian, with a lazy yawn, draped an arm around Leo and said someone was waiting for him. The implication was clear, and the crew exchanged knowing glances. Julian leaned in close, whispering that he was tired. When Leo tried to pull away, Julian held him fast, teasing him for being shy and secretly lacing their fingers together. Leo hadn't thought about a future. He assumed it was a standard on-set affair that would end when filming did. But Julian became increasingly attached. The crew saw it as a deep bromance, natural for the roles they were playing. Meanwhile, more job offers started coming in for Leo. He knew they were because of Julian. When he tried to bring it up, Julian just squeezed the back of his neck and told him not to worry about it, to just focus on the acting. He knew Leo needed money, but he never asked why. One evening, they were supposed to watch a movie but never made it to the end. The living room sofa saw more use than the bed. Julian seemed to love watching him come undone, kissing away the tears that spilled from his eyes. He helped Leo with his lines, a patient and insightful teacher. Leo felt a pang of inadequacy, remarking that Julian must have been top of his class in drama school. Julian laughed, revealing he'd majored in finance. When Leo asked why he became an actor, Julian grew quiet. After a moment, he said it was because he wanted to experience a different life. Julian insisted on accompanying him to a guest spot on a late-night show. He waited in the Escalade for hours. When Leo finally finished after midnight, he saw Julian standing under a streetlight, a tall, striking figure in a black t-shirt and ball cap. In that moment, Leo felt a pang of loneliness. He was always alone after work, while others had family or staff waiting. This was the first time someone was waiting for him. He watched for a moment before Julian spotted him and waved. As he approached, Julian pulled him into a kiss, right there on the street. It was a sweet, possessive kiss that scrambled Leo's thoughts. For the first time, he allowed himself to hope for something more. Back in the present, Jenna was telling him that a few behind-the-scenes clips from their most intimate scene in Celestial had been leaked. The shippers were in a frenzy. She asked if he wanted to release a statement. In their world, a queer-coded friendship was one thing. A real relationship was a career killer. She mentioned that fans had even dug up photos of Julian waiting for him outside the studio late at night. The level of scrutiny was exhausting. He agreed to retweet the studio's statement about respecting artists' privacy. He clicked on the trending clips. The scene was from a sweltering afternoon on set. His character, poor and without air conditioning, lay with Julian's character under a thin sheet, the only sound the whirring of an old fan and their own breathing. The intimacy was so familiar it made him ache. He remembered nearly getting heatstroke after the take. Julian had taken him to his air-conditioned trailer, feeding him iced coffee and popsicles. In the cool quiet, away from the cameras, the professionalism faded, leaving a comfortable silence. Julian had complained about the heat, his eyes fixed on Leo's lips, stained red from the popsicle. He repeated it, his voice low and thick with meaning. "I'm hot." Leo knew what he meant and tried to refuse, but Julian leaned in with a wicked smile, saying he'd never tried it in a trailer before. The tinted windows turned the harsh sunlight into a dim glow, the small space making their world shrink to just the two of them. He remembered that day so clearly because it was his 26th birthday. It was also the day his father called. He'd just gotten out of prison. Leo expected a belated birthday wish. Instead, his father told him he had thyroid cancer. The world tilted. His father tried to reassure him it wasn't serious, that his new girlfriend, an old flame named Anna, was taking care of him. But he needed money for the treatment. He also announced they were getting married and that Leo should meet Anna's son, who was about his age. The call ended without a single mention of his birthday. Later that evening, the Celestial producer invited him for a late supper. Leo was about to decline when she mentioned Julian would be there, waiting for him. He'd felt a pang of disappointment, realizing that Julian wasn't obligated to spend every free moment with him. But the call from his father had left him unsettled, so he went. The private room was dark. He thought he had the wrong place until his phone rang and he heard the ringtone from inside. Suddenly, lights flashed and confetti cannons exploded. The cast and crew were all there, shouting surprise. Julian stood in the center, holding a cake, the cufflinks gleaming on his wrists. The director praised his acting. The producer promised him future work. And Julian just said happy birthday, squeezing his wrist and whispering that other things would be said in private. He came to Leo's room later that night. He fastened a Rolex to Leo's wrist, a gift so extravagant it took his breath away. Leo tried to refuse, but Julian pulled him into his arms. The emotional whiplash of the day was too much, and his eyes welled with tears. Julian held him, asking softly why a birthday party would make him cry. Muffled against his chest, Leo admitted that no one remembered his birthday anymore. In the ensuing intimacy, Leo initiated their kiss for the first time. The next day, Leo found out the truth about Julian's mother. She intercepted him on his way to the wrap party, a perfectly coiffed woman in the back of a Bentley. In a sterile coffee shop, she laid out the reality of their situation. The Croft family was an institution. Julian was her youngest, a bit of a rebel, but he had responsibilities. He had a fiancée chosen for him. She told Leo, with cold precision, that no mother would accept this, and then twisted the knife, suggesting that perhaps Leo's own mother's suicide wasn't entirely unrelated to his sexuality. Leo was stunned. He told her that if Julian wanted to end it, he would walk away without a fight. He arrived at the wrap party, his heart a stone in his chest. And then he overheard the conversation on the balcony. Julian, with his friend, dismissing their relationship as a cure for boredom. Calling it disgusting, the bottom fell out of his world. He fled the party, ignoring Julian's frantic calls, and left town before sunrise. Julian was busy, his texts a confusing mix of asking what was wrong and telling him to wait. Then, news broke that Julian had left the country. There were rumors he was quitting the industry to take over his family's business. Their last call was brief. Before Julian could speak, Leo said it was over. When Julian asked why, Leo replied with one word: bored. The months that followed were a blur of work. Jenna noticed his low mood but kept her comments professional. At a magazine shoot, he ran into Caleb, his old rival. Caleb's own career had stalled, and he was now mired in a cheating scandal. The power dynamic had flipped entirely. Caleb was forced to wait for Leo to finish, his envy a palpable thing. He sneered that Leo had gotten lucky. Leo, without looking at him, agreed, but added that he had a ticking time bomb strapped to him, a fact Caleb himself was well aware of. The jab hit its mark. Outside, watching the rain, he told Jenna that the promotional tour would last 2 more months. He had only taken short-term endorsement deals. He confessed that when he signed the contract with Davies, he never thought he'd be able to pay it off. Now, 3 endorsements would clear the debt. He spoke of his initial passion for acting, how it had been eroded by the industry's nepotism and cynicism. He was disillusioned. All he wanted now was to be free. The next day was a media event at the Big Eye Entertainment offices. Julian was already there, charming the staff. He handed Leo a pen to sign the welcome board, his fingers brushing Leo's. The touch was electric. Throughout the event, Julian was relentless. His flirty banter and subtle touches designed for the cameras, whipping their fans into a frenzy. In a quieter moment, he tried to explain. He said the man on the balcony was a friend of his brother's, that he'd said what he did to protect Leo from his family. He explained that he had been followed that night and that his sudden departure was not his choice. He asked for a chance to talk. Leo refused. Julian's face fell, but then his eyes hardened with resolve. He vowed he wouldn't give up. That night, Leo's phone rang. It was Marcus, Julian's manager, sounding desperate. Julian was drunk at a bar, demanding to see Leo, threatening to publicly announce their relationship. Leo, weary to his bones, got the address and drove. At the bar, Marcus pulled him aside. He told Leo the full story. Julian had been effectively abandoned by his parents in Europe at the age of 3. His mother had visited him only once on his birthday, accidentally feeding him seafood, which he was deathly allergic to, and landing him in the hospital. The family had never cared about him until it was time for him to fulfill his duty and marry for business. His coming out and the Celestial Project had been acts of rebellion. His mother had used Leo to force him into compliance. He had lied about their breakup to protect Leo, then was forced overseas. The stress and drinking to cope with endless business deals had led to stomach cancer, requiring the removal of a large part of his stomach. He had refused the surgery until his family agreed to let him return to the US for the Celestial promotions. He was planning on leaving the industry for good. The weight of the revelations was crushing. Leo found Julian slumped at a table. He took him home. The next morning, he woke to the smell of cooking. Julian was in the kitchen, wearing a pink apron, making an elaborate breakfast. The domesticity of it was jarring. Leo ate in silence, the unspoken words hanging heavy in the air. He retreated to his office. The moment he turned on his phone, it exploded. A call from Jenna confirmed his worst fears. They had been photographed last night. But it was worse than that. Everything was out. His father's drunk driving conviction, his mother's suicide, the faked photos of him with the investor, a narrative painting him as a morally bankrupt opportunist. The familiar ringing filled his ears. Julian burst in, finding Leo fumbling for his anxiety medication. Julian tried to hold him, to comfort him, but all Leo could do was push him away, begging him not to look. The leak had unleashed his deepest traumas. He was transported back to high school, to the relentless bullying he endured for being different. The ringleader of that torment was a boy named Mitch. They called him slurs, cornered him, humiliated him. His parents, busy and distracted, dismissed his pleas for help as teenage drama. His teachers told him to be tougher. The worst betrayal came when they faked love letters from the top student in his class, a boy he'd thought was his friend. They read his heartfelt, naive replies aloud to the whole school, confirming their suspicions that he was gay. The friend he thought he had turned on him, calling him disgusting. Mitch was eventually expelled. Leo hadn't seen him since, until he went to meet his father's new stepson. It was Mitch. Mitch began blackmailing him, using the threat of exposing his sexuality and fabricating stories of a high school obsession. Then the extortion escalated. Mitch gave his number to loan sharks, who drugged him, took him to a hotel, and shot compromising photos. The threat was clear: pay up or they would be released. He confronted his father, who had been using the cancer treatment money to pay off Mitch's debts. His father was unremorseful, callously dismissing the photos. In a drunken rage, he blamed Leo for his mother's death, saying his sexuality had driven her to it. A few days later, his father, drunk, fell into a river and drowned. Mitch showed up at the funeral, still looking for a handout. Leo, hollowed out, told him to release the photos. He had nothing left to lose. The photos eventually found their way to Mr. Davies, his old boss, along with candid shots of him and Julian from the Celestial set. Stolen moments of intimacy that now looked like evidence of a calculated scheme. Davies used them to force Leo back into a room with the investor, Sterling. But this time, Leo was prepared. He recorded Sterling's lewd propositions and then punched him in the face, walking away with the evidence he needed to protect himself. He walked out of Davies's office for the last time, ending his contract and leaving his career in flames. He hit rock bottom. For a month, he didn't leave his apartment, the thought of ending it all a constant companion. What saved him was a message from the Celestial producer with the first trailer for the show. Seeing Julian's face, remembering the brief period of hope and light they shared, was enough. He cried until he was empty, then put the razor blade away. He started therapy and was diagnosed with severe depression. He began rebuilding, taking acting classes, which is where he met Jenna, a top agent who saw his raw talent and determination. Then came the news of Julian's illness. Marcus flew him out to Europe, where he saw Julian, pale and thin, in a hospital bed. Now, standing in his own office amidst the wreckage of his public implosion, Leo made a decision. He typed out a statement. He confirmed his father's crime but also provided proof of his restitution payments and ongoing support for the victim's family. The victim's daughter, hounded by reporters, angrily defended him, telling the media to leave them all in peace. Then Leo came out. He wrote simply that he was gay, had always been gay, and had never hurt anyone because of it. He posted the recording of Sterling and the evidence of Mitch's blackmail. Within hours, the narrative shifted. Other victims of Sterling came forward. A mountain of evidence against Caleb, including domestic abuse and his own secret affairs, was leaked to the press. The internet, which had been his executioner, was now a chaotic courtroom, and new defendants were on trial. He knew it was Julian's work, muddying the waters, creating a smokescreen. He drove home. The elevator ride felt endless. He didn't know if Julian would still be there. He opened the door. Julian shot up from the sofa, his eyes red. He rushed forward and pulled Leo into a crushing hug, sobbing into his shoulder. He saw Julian cry for the first time. He told him to stop. Julian just held him tighter. In that moment, the immense distance between them evaporated. Laying himself bare to the world had been terrifying, but it had also been liberating. He asked Julian if he was behind the leaks about Caleb and Sterling. Julian just nodded, his face buried in Leo's neck. He confessed that his family had only relented when he traded his freedom for it, agreeing to join the family business. That was the only bargaining chip he had. A few months later, life had found a new rhythm. Mitch was in prison for killing a man in a drunken brawl. Mr. Davies's company had collapsed under a series of failed projects and lawsuits. And Leo was in Julian's office, sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows. He was reading a script. He had taken the money he'd earned and invested it, some in tech startups, some in a short film for an up-and-coming director. He was starting a production company with Jenna. They would make things they believed in. They would try to make the industry a little better. Julian came up behind him, wrapping his arms around his waist and resting his chin on his shoulder. He asked what Leo's plans were. Leo told him he wanted to produce. Julian smiled, kissing his temple. He offered to be his first investor. He said he didn't mind if Leo lost all his money. He would just earn more for him to play with. Later that night, Leo woke in the quiet darkness of their bedroom. The city lights twinkled outside. He reached for his phone on the nightstand and his fingers brushed against cool metal. He looked down. A simple, elegant diamond band was on his left ring finger. Across the room, Julian sat at a desk, typing quietly on his laptop, the soft clicks the only sound. Leo got out of bed and walked over to him, standing behind him. He used to think he was just holding onto a single beam of light, but now he could see all of Julian, the shadows and the brilliance. Julian sensed him there and turned. He smiled. "You're awake. Are you hungry?" Leo looked at the man he loved, the man who had fought his own demons to find his way back to him. He nodded. "Anything you make." Julian's smile widened. "All right," he said, rising and gently lifting Leo into his arms. "Let's go home."